In the days of Cuchullin's youth, there was a man named Bricru, called Bricru of the bitter tongue. For he was a troublemaker through and through. It was rumored that he had an accident in his youth, which made it impossible for him to enjoy good food, and bitter about this cruel fate, he began to spread rumors and cause trouble whenever he could. For a while, this was merely an annoyance for the man of the Red Branch of King Hroar, but with time, this behavior became so problematic that he was finally banished from Eamon Marca to ensure the peace at the court of Croa Mac Nessa. And so, Bricru had to think of other ways to have his fun and to cause some trouble. He decided to build a great hall in Dunreary, in Dundrum, County Down. But not just any hall, but the finest feasting hall anyone in Ulster had ever seen. Built from the finest materials and decorated with the finest tapestries and carvings. A piece of art in its own right. And in the hall there were 12 seats, one for every hero of Ulster, and a high seat for the king, Croa Mac Nessa. And once the hall was finished, he sent invites to the court of Eamon Marca. He invited all the warriors and all their families, and of course the king, to a big feast in the finest hall Ireland had ever seen. At first, the king and his advisers were hesitant to accept the invitation, for they feared that Bricru would steer them up against each other, causing deep trouble, if not even death. But when they expressed their hesitance to Bricru, he was furious. Hadn't he built the best feasting hall in all of Ireland? This insult wouldn't go unnoticed, he threatened. He would steer up every son against their fathers in all of Ulster, until they killed each other in a rage. And if that wouldn't suffice to make the king change his mind, he would steer up every woman against their daughter, so that they would fight each other and wouldn't be able to provide anything but sour milk to their babies. The king called his warriors and advisers to him. How should they handle this threat? One of the wisest of Croa's advisers was Seneca, and he had an idea. He suggested they should attend the feast Bricru proposed, but should bind him to certain conditions, to at least limit the trouble he would be able to cause. One condition should be that, while they were there, Bricru would be guarded by 8 men of the Red Branch, and would have to stay outside of the feasting hall, while Croa and his guests would attend the feast. And to their surprise, Bricru actually agreed to these conditions, for he already worked on a plan how he could cause mischief despite these efforts. And so Croa attended the feast, together with his family, servants, warriors, and 3 greatest heroes, Cuchulainn, Conall Cernach, and Lerith Bullach. Unbeknownst to them, Bricru had already visited each of the 3 warriors before the feast, telling each of them how much of a warrior they were, and how they alone would be worthy to receive the Curavir, the champion's portion of the feast. He told each of them that they had to claim the portion to establish that they alone deserved it, and that at his house this would mean the finest meal they ever had. And when he finally was sure that every of the 3 men was determined to claim the champion's portion for themselves, he left them, knowing that the restrictions laid upon him wouldn't affect him at all, for he wouldn't need to be in the room to cause havoc. He already planted the necessary seeds. When the king and his heroes arrived and tended to the feast, the moment came when Bricru was forced to leave the room. He did so willingly, but before he left for good, he let everyone in the room know that the champion's portion of this feast was the finest any man could ever eat, and that only the greatest hero of them all should be allowed to claim it. Silence. followed by the 3 warriors who tried to claim this portion for themselves at the same time. They looked at each other and began to fight and argue about who of them was the greater hero, stating their own virtues and belittling the achievements of the others. Seeing what was going on, Kroha and his advisor Seneca tried to stop the heroes and to calm them down. Once the 3 men were calm enough to listen, they proposed an idea. They had them share the champion's portion as equals, for without doubt, all 3 of them were great heroes. The question of who the greatest among them was would be answered another day. Reluctantly, the men agreed, and so they kept feasting and enjoying themselves. Upon hearing what happened in the hall, Bricriu was displeased, but not ready to give up yet. While thinking of a new plan, he looked outside of his window and saw the Ulster woman going for a walk. He grinned. This was his chance. He sneaked outside and approached every of the wives of the 3 heroes individually, flattering and praising every one of them, telling them they should insist to set foot into the hall first of the women, to show the others that they, as the wife of a hero, stood above all the others. Charmed and empowered by his words, each of the 3 women tried to be the first one, going faster and faster, until they were finally running towards the hall, falling over each other in front of the door. They made such a noise that the men inside of the hall thought they would be attacked. They took up their weapons, ready to fight whatever came through that door. Only Cuchulainn went to the door, peeked through the crack to the other side, and saw the wives and daughters of the Ulstermen. The man opened the door, demanding to know what was going on. The 3 wives of the 3 heroes declared for each of themselves that they should have the right to step in first through that door, for they were the most virtuous and beautiful amongst the others, and deserved a higher rank than all of the other women. Upon hearing this, and how they belittled each other, the heroes also started to argue, each in their own wife's favor. Within moments, the heroes were back at each other's throat, trying to open the way for their own wife to enter first. Bricriu observed the commotion from afar, enjoying the success of his mischievous endeavors. It took all the men and the king to bring the heroes and their wives back to their senses, before they could seriously hurt anyone. But the question of whom of them deserved the title greatest hero was still unanswered. Kroha and Seneca thought of a solution. They decided to send Cuchulainn, Conall Cernach, and Lir Budak to Queen Maeve and King Ailill of Connacht, to let them decide which of the heroes deserved the title of greatest hero of Ireland. The 3 men accepted this as a fair solution, and made their way to Cruachan, the stronghold of Ailill and Maeve. What kind of test would await them there? Which of the heroes would finally win the right to the champion's portion? Well, this is a story for the next episode of The Legends of Cuchulainn. If you like this video, please subscribe, leave a like and ring the bell to be notified when the next video comes out. See you next time. Slán slán!